we're going to go to another fintech company called Nexus Technology. And Larry Lanzil, I made you a co-host so you can do your presentation.
Thank you so much, Mariana. Great to see you guys. For starters, I guess what I'll say is let's jump out. I know this is a Web3 centric crowd. I know all of our companies are Web3 centric, but let's jump away from there for a second. Let's just get old school Wall Street. Nexos Go is a Wall Street firm. We are focused on fiat. We're focused on traditional banks. We're focused on SEC and OCC regulations. And it is a very typical Wall Street within the regulation regime of the United States company. So I'll come back to where and how and why we're tying crypto into that and Web3. We are a Web3 company, but we didn't start out that way. We started out as a banking play. So traditionally, what's going on in the banking world the last 40 years, maybe even more, is all of the banks, the credit unions, finance, investment funds, they're all built on this archaic infrastructure. Stuff that was designed and certified in the 1970s, and you can't really rip and replace it no matter what you do. That's why companies like PayPal and Venmo, they'll never go into a bank. The P2P will never go into a bank. The real-time settlement that crypto can achieve and that blockchain can achieve will never go into a bank if it has to sit on top of the legacy infrastructure. That legacy infrastructure cannot settle real time. It all really comes down to settlement. You can't settle real time on the legacy infrastructure. So what makes Nexos very different than any other banking company that you see in the Web3, even the Web2 space, frankly, is that we are focused on real-time settlement. We're a full stack solution that within a bank, we would sit next to the infrastructure stack. So we are an infrastructure play for a bank. You could run a SEC regulated, OCC regulated bank on the Nexos infrastructure alone. And we know that's not going to happen, and it's not what we're going after today. But as we stand up our infrastructure next to traditional banking infrastructure, little by little, those banks start to see, oh, I really don't have to dump everything over to my legacy infrastructure every night for reporting and compliance. I can do it all from the Nexos stack, right? And we're fully in the cloud, GCP, AWS, and all that stuff. So it's a virtual stack, but it can run an entire bank. So the reason this is important is because if you want to achieve what crypto can do, P2P, real-time settlement, account generation online, just how do we all go to the exchanges, KYC, show our license to the camera and spin up an account real time. You should be able to do that for a US regulated bank as well. So our investors are largely, just as the company's culture, are largely Wall Street. They're 20, 30-year veterans of Goldman Sachs, State Street. It's all the traditional Wall Street focused crowd. We're just now starting to see the Web3 investors come in, and we've, it's starting to really all take shape, let's say, for a Web3 ramp up, because we've been running inside. We're built. We have revenue. We have clients in 46 states. We have been inside, connected at the lowest levels, like the networking levels, connected to bank infrastructure, bank general ledgers within the United States and OCC regulated banks since August of 21. So we're going, right? We're already up and running, but now we're in the middle of a seed round right now. Actually, we're probably towards the end of a seed round in the next week or two. And that's really what we're planning to launch sales and marketing with. So that's kind of the background of the company. To say actually what it is that we do, I'm going to see if I can zoom in here real quick. So any of this functionality, payments, treasury, banking, debit cards, lending, this is stuff that we've basically built APIs for, and we allow another company to stand up, right? Now, and we're circumventing the traditional Wall Street rails. So traditionally, you've got Jack Henry, FIS, and there's one more. I'm drawing a blank on the name. There's traditionally been three companies that supply every product to the banks. So what we're doing is we're saying you don't have to buy from one of those three. Those are the traditional rails, the rails that Visa, MasterCard uses, the American Express. Those are traditional rails. What we're doing is we're saying this can be stood up on a blockchain network. Once you plug in our APIs, you can settle real time, bank to end user, bank to merchant, right? So some of the, if you were to try to build this out for real time settlements in a bank, this would take probably about 2 years to set up. A couple banks that I know of are down this path. You really don't have to read the details of this slide. It's really meant to show you the process of what it would take to build it out at a bank. It's very convoluted. By the time you actually got it stood up, the industry would have moved on. So what we do is we'll come in, whether you're a bank or a credit union, typically takes 3 weeks to stand up any one of these solutions. And you don't actually have to be a bank or credit union either. This is where, exchanges comes into play, or any custody company. If you custody Bitcoin, Ether, any crypto, as you convert it to USD, we all know that can't be taken out of the major exchanges in real time. It has to be the normal 3 to 5 day settlement. Sometimes there's a cost for it too, right? So for instance, coming back to the Web 3.0 play that we are now employing, we've allowed our API to also be plugged into crypto companies. So we have a very public deal with, Paxos. We have deals with many exchanges, but Paxos is one of them. So we have our API connected into Paxos. Any company that has our API plugged into can real-time settle with any other company that has our API plugged into. So we have traditional fiat banks in the US that are, long time running banks that can real-time settle United States currency with crypto exchanges. We can then spin up debit cards for other third parties, maybe banking as a service companies. We're not a banking as a service company. We're a platform as a service. We can enable other companies to be banking as a service companies. So we can spin up, say, a debit card for any company, and that debit card could real-time settle from crypto to fiat and walk into a Starbucks with 0 fiat dollars in your bank account and spend crypto from a hot wallet. So you've got Ether or Bitcoin in Paxos, for example. You can walk into Starbucks, swipe your card. The Ether or the Bitcoin would convert to US dollars and real-time settle to fund that transaction within the 8 seconds that the transaction takes to time out. So it wouldn't time out. You'd be able to purchase your coffee as long as everybody in that chain or that flow, that monetary flow map is on the Nexos infrastructures, on the Nexos network. So some real-time examples, not real-time, but some real-world examples. We're working with a company that has 50,000 trucker companies that they do the payment they do like the back office stuff. They do the payroll and the servicing of paying the drivers, right? So typically the way it works today is a truck driver drops the load and then has to wait 3 to 5 days to get their money if they have direct deposit set up. If they don't have direct deposit set up, they wait 5 to 12 days for a mailed check, right? But even if it's direct deposit, which is the best case example, it's 3 to 5 days, and that's like a 3 to 5% cost. So somewhere between 3 and 8% is what's being charged to get the end user their money, and 3 to 5 days. With Nexos, what we've implemented with this company, those truck drivers now get their money real time, same day, seconds, and they pay about, well, between 1 and 2%, typically on the low side of that, actually. So they're making more money and they're settling faster, right? Another example would be international remittance. So, you just simply want to send money to a relative. The way it works today is you get your paycheck, you send it, you bring it to a physical location, and they send it to another physical location, and then somebody there takes the cash out and delivers it. So you have that risk of actually having cash, first of all, right? Which, that's not that's largely frowned upon. I think there's a ton of fraud in that step. Plus, it's super high fees. 6% is what we put here, but we all know that sometimes goes far north of that too. So, where we're talking about the digital wallet and the virtual cards, right? With this real-time settlement for a 1% fee, it's just a massive benefit to be able to switch. Plus, everybody has phones now. How come countries? How come it's all the developing nations that are fully reliant on the phones, but the U.S. is not? It's like they're so far ahead of the U.S. in that regard. Well, the reality is the infrastructure exists, and it exists within the law. It just hasn't been really exploited or built out from a banking perspective. A lot of companies have come in from a crypto perspective and tried to say, we're going to do this for crypto. And that's kind of why I really stress that we're not doing this from a crypto perspective. We're doing this from a banking perspective. The CEO of Nexos has been the CEO of traditional banks here in the United States, still on the board of multiple banks. Many of our investors are very similar to that. So the way it works is, you basically drop these in our platform. They're dynamic apps that you build into a mobile wallet, right? We have the API gateways. We have the connectors, if you will. Let me switch tabs real quick. Yeah. So this is kind of a snapshot of what the solution looks like, right? So everything in blue is what we've built. And we started building this about 4 years ago. So really, crypto was not in mind at all when we started building this. But it's almost the forefront today. So everything in blue is Nexos. We are already tied into multiple banks. All the banking as a service companies that you see now, they typically have a bank on the back end that has agreed to allow them to function. That's not what we're doing. We have a lot of banks that have signed up on our back end, and we go to market with those banks. So we can either go to their merchants and help them settle real time for less, or we can bring other new companies into our ecosystem and put them on or with one of our banks for that real-time settlement and crypto conversion. And we can bring a company in and real-time settle between, say, Paxos or Prime Trust or one of our partners. We can real-time settle, change it to USD, and then real-time settle to fiat, right? So this is just an overview of the process. So I think you kind of get it. I don't have too many more slides that I think are super useful. just to stay high level, these are our seven, we call these our seven forces. Very heavy, deep APIs built out in all of these directions, 3 weeks to spin up, embedded payments, for instance. So happy to field any questions. The next few slides are on market opportunity. Obviously, it's huge. Less than 1% of embedded payments is built out right now. And it's like 100, what's the figure? I want to say it's $100 billion market that's projected, right? 1.8 trillion in fees are going to be paid by 2030. So we're looking to capture a good portion of that. I see some things in the chat. Okay. So yeah, happy to answer any questions or, connect afterwards. It's fine.
Lawrence,
Awesome.
may I ask a question?
Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Lawrence. Really great presentation. I know how complex and how difficult this is to do. So my question to you is your company open to licensing this technology for a use case in finance, but different from anything you've mentioned? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I'll say, in general, as a concept, that's our bread and butter, right? We're actually not trying to take this to market. Like, we have an app, like you can go to Google or Apple Store or Google Play and download the Nexos wallet. And we have, I don't know, a few thousand people carrying Nexos Visa cards around, and they're doing the real-time settlement between our banks and Paxos and all that stuff. Like, we're doing this today, but that we really only built that out just to show that we can do it. It's more of an advertising thing for us. We're not really promoting it. Our bread and butter is to do this for other companies that want to, be a banking as a service or utilize our services on their backends. So yes, yeah.
Thank you.